welcome to the David Goodman Reality and Truth Show. My name is Vanita Lambert, and I have the honor of hosting this show and carrying on David Goodman's legacy. One of the things that he wanted to provide for the community was to bring information, resources, and new perspectives to the community, because without the information, you can't take advantage of the benefits. Which I'd like to introduce. I have a very special guest today, Dr. Charles Morgan. He is president of Sorbonne, and he's also a psychiatrist. So I'm going to take advantage of him because I have a couple of issues that I need to get straightened out as well. Welcome to the show, Dr. Morgan.
Thank you so much, Ms. Lambert.
How are you today?
I'm really very good, thank you.
Wonderful. Will you just tell our audience a little bit about you and all about Sorbonne? I know that it's an after-school program, but that's all I know. So
Okay. So my name is Charles Morgan. I'm a psychiatrist, and I'm the former chairman of psychiatry at Bridgeport Hospital. I was there in that position for 20 years, but I've worked in the Bridgeport community for about 25 years. So as I was retiring, I started thinking about how could I give back to the community in a way that was meaningful. And since I only have one skill, which is psychiatry, maybe a second is getting people that I've worked with over the years to still stay in connection with them. Mm-hmm. And when COVID hit, it had us change perspective as to how we did things. And one of the good things that came out of COVID is that area psychiatrists and leaders of hospitals started having a conversation as to how we could deal with a crisis that we never had to deal with before. And then during that time, George Floyd also was murdered. And so what that brought up for us was the disparity in care of people within our communities. And as I was talking about retirement, one of the gentlemen, the president of Silver Hill Hospital, who was on the Zoom meeting, said, "So what are you going to do?" And I said, "I want to do a give back project to Bridgeport." And he said, "I will sign on to that." We had no clear clue as to what we were going to be doing.
no agenda. Wow.
No agenda. But I knew I wanted to
I want to
give
do
back.
something.
And it happened that over the last probably 10 years or so, I had done some work using creative expression with experts in the field in Jamaica as well as South Africa to help young people dealing with trauma. And I said, okay, I have this tool I can pull out. And so I reached out to Deborah, to Kendra Carlson, who is a master art therapist with whom I'd worked at Bridgeport Hospital, and some other people, and said, how would you like to brainstorm this with me? And everybody said yes.
Absolutely.
So I called on friends that I'd worked with in the past, people that I'd been working with at Bridgeport Hospital, and we had our first meeting in August of 2021. And the second time we met, we decided we had to come up with a name. It couldn't just be a project in Bridgeport. And so I kept researching, and I came across something that I'd actually read years before, which was the word Sawubona, which is a Zulu word that the Zulus use when they greet each other.
Okay.
It's instead of hello or good morning, they say
okay.
Sawubona. Sawubona in Zulu means we see you. And it doesn't matter whether it's just the two of us or a group of us meeting, it's we see you, because we honor who you are in your totality.
Okay.
But we also think about our lineage and ancestry. And so it's probably more similar to Namaste. It's meeting all of you,
Okay.
whoever you are.
We see you inside out. We see you.
We see you with all your potential, your possibilities, and maybe even your faults. And we will work with you with that, because you also see that. So the greeting is Sawubona, and the response is Yebo Sawubona. We see you too.
Okay.
So it's mutual respect. And the group actually bought into it right away. And within a couple of minutes of brainstorming, they came up with a tagline: "We see you, we hear you, we believe in you." And we knew that we wanted to work with the youth. And so we started looking at where could we find youth that we could work with. And we've really drawn the knowledge that we'd seen a number of young people in our emergency rooms, in our treatment programs, but we were sending them back to the same environment where they get exposed to the same traumas that brought them in. And we know that trauma is healed through movement, the body, through expression. And so that's the modality, we're using those modalities. So we use art therapy, we use music, we use movement, we use rap poetry, anything that can get kids to connect,
Yes.
see inside of themselves and each other without the stigma of mental health. And
That's awesome.
So that's kind of a long-winded approach to why I'm here.
It's beautiful, though. I mean, and what age group do you start with?
So,
I'm curious about that because
it's
I
interesting
know
that-
if you don't catch them at a certain time, it's too late.
Yes.
Once the tattoos are on, it may be too late.
It may be too late. So we actually looked at two things. We looked at our skill set, but we also looked at the ages. Ideally, if we had the right people, we'd actually start as early as they get to school. The group that I've worked with really are much more familiar with middle through high school.
Okay.
So that's where we started. And we were fortunate enough to partner with Great Oaks Charter School in Bridgeport. And they allowed us, for the first year, we started with them in March of 2022, to provide after-school program. We brought in different people, art therapists, music, someone who'd help the kids address their superpowers through drawing comics, journaling. So we've used a lot of different modalities. And we've continued to do that through the end of this past academic year. The Great Oaks community has been so supportive. And so when it's an after-school program, it's elective. So there are kids who want to do basketball sometime, they want to do other things.
Right, right.
And so we've had trouble having a consistent attendance. And the superintendent actually said, you know what? This is such an important thing that you're offering. We want to bring you in for the next academic year as an embedded program. So starting August 30th, which is when their school opens, we will now be working with all of the 8th grade. We'll work each class will be worked with for a trimester. I think there are 4 different groups of 8th graders. So we'll be able to meet some with like 100 students over the course of a year. So we're pretty excited about that.
I'm pretty excited about hearing about that in Bridgeport, what an impact that's going to have on their total lives. And that is middle school, I think, is just the right age to catch them and to show them, make them learn about themselves and show them the difference between going down the wrong road and the right road. And I like the way that you guys, you do that. That's just phenomenal. You're showing the kids by, and I'm thinking about I See You. When you show a child that you're interested in them, in my mind, I raised 2 boys. I have one 31 and the other one's 27. Kids want to know that you hear them. And then, not only, my kids anyway, I think they tested me, not only, like if they tell you something, they want to make sure you're listening. So I listen, and then next week you have to say, remember when you told me about, you have to confirm that you heard them. And once you do that, you have them. You made a connection.
Yeah.
You have bridged that gap. That is phenomenal. That is amazing. That's what everybody needs.
So I have to tell you that the connection is the most important piece. And the board that we've been able to attract, because we're now a nonprofit board, people are just as connected to each other. And for the first year, everything we did, art supplies, whatever, came out of people's pockets. We were able to do a
Parents? You mean parents or?
the board.
Oh, the board.
Every
oh,
member
wait.
of the board.
You guys pay for it? Oh,
everything
my
that
goodness. Gotta do some fundraising. I can help you with that.
So we did our first fundraiser in October, and that's allowed us to do things through the year. We actually had a fundraiser that we had planned to do August 12th, but because of slow ticket sales, we've actually put that on hold, and we'll talk about that some more. But what we noticed is, because each week members of the curriculum committee would go into the school, the kids started to notice, you were here last week, what happened you're not here this week, what's going on? And so they've made a great connection.
That's right.
And the kids who've gone through the program, you run into them into the hallway, you get the biggest smiles from them. So we've really started to make an impact in that way.
Absolutely. They
But-
depend on seeing you,
So
and they need that
they
and appreciate
do.
it.
They do. And the other thing is that it's allowed us to reach out to experts in the community. So one of the projects we did during the summer of last year, this was mostly middle school students, was we had Tangela Irby, who is a descendant of the Gee's Bend quilters from Gee's
Okay.
Bend, Alabama. She's written a little book called Pearl and Her Quilt. I think I might have the
My
title of it.
family's from that area.
From Gee's
in
Bend.
Alabama. Yeah, it's in,
Okay.
it's in one of my family reunion books. I've seen it somewhere.
So she came in, she read to the kids.
Uh-huh.
They each got an autographed copy of the book. She donated a piece of original G-Bend quilt fabric, and then the kids, with their own fabric donated by members of the community, made their quilt, which was actually part of our fundraiser. That was actually auctioned off at the fundraiser.
As a group, they
As a
made the
group,
quilt
they-
together. Oh,
Beautiful,
like 10 little
beautiful.
kids sewing a patch on or
They
something.
actually did by gluing. They were able to cut and glue. And so they
Wow.
learned, skills about, maths as they were cutting, how to put colors together. It was just a great project. And then we've had them look at making T-shirts with social justice statements after they've heard a presentation by another local community expert, Michelle Blacksmith, who's here from Bridgeport.
Okay.
And they, after her presentation, they were able to do their T-shirts. It's a tie-dye equivalent with what their statement was.
Nice.
So they've done really interesting work. And the art therapist, Kendra Carlson, who is our coordinator for the curriculum committee, has just found some of the best talents around to bring in, so that this year we're actually able to offer stipends to creatives to come in and
Nice.
help the group. It's been really a wonderful experience.
That's awesome. That's really awesome that they can connect like that and do those things. Let me ask you a question about the stigma between. I don't have that because I took both my children to therapists. My youngest son, Jonathan, who's 27, he has low-end Asperger's syndrome, but I never told him that, and I just treated him normal, and he went off to college 5 years and got his degree and all that. And the other one, I call him Baby Joe, he had anxiety. The cool one, he plays sports, he got tattoos, dreads, and all that stuff. So they're complete opposites. So when he was in high school, he had to take his SATs to get in college. He had asthma, he would get anxiety and pass out and never finish the SATs. I had to take him to a therapist for anxiety. And he gave him some rubber bands to put around his wrist or whatever. So, but what I did, because of the stigma that we all have and that we carry it on to our kids, we teach our kids, I didn't want anybody to see us going to a therapist, and then because his kids, the peers would just make fun of him.
Yeah.
Oh, I saw your mom taking you crazy. So I live in West Haven. I took him to Middletown. Take them out of town is my answer,
Yeah.
but do take them.
Yeah.
And you can take them. It's just so important. Mental health is just as important as any other health. If you have a problem with a tooth, you're going to a specialist, a dentist.
Yeah.
If you have issues with mental health or just, any type of trauma or anything that bothers you or your child, make sure you get them that help. So how do you implement that into what you're doing? Because
You just hit the nail right on the head. So when we had our discussions as a board, and even before we became a board, that was a big part of the question, because especially among communities of color, we have a stigma related to mental illness. Don't hang out your dirty linen in front of others.
That's an understatement, yeah.
This is stuff we keep with each other. Or you're crazy if you have to go see a therapist. And so we wanted to build on mental wellness and resiliency. And so the kids relate to us not as psychiatrists, social workers, art therapists, whatever. They just see us as people who are helping them build creativity. And so you hear about their anxiety, you hear about issues that have caused them trauma as they do their work. And we don't talk about mental health, we don't talk about treatment. It's just part of their regular routine.
So they illustrate what they're feeling is
some of the work that they do is how they're feeling.
Oh,
They're able to journal so they can write. So we give them prompts like, what's on your mind today? And it may be, you know, we lost a family member, or this is what's going on. And so we usually have 4 or 5 of us from the curriculum committee with, I'm going to say on average 15 students. There are lots of us around. And we can say, what's that you're drawing? Why are you doing that? What's that word in your poem mean? And you get a lot more. Or what's that symbol that you just drew? What does that mean for your power symbol? And so we're doing that work without therapy. The other thing that we do is we do a check-in with them where they use a mood chart to rate how they're feeling when they come into each session and when they go, and it's anonymous. So, and they're able to write comments. And some of the things that they have written have just been amazing. They express gratitude, for example, for the session, or gratitude for different things in their families or their schools. It's been really great in that way.
That's phenomenal. The important thing is the communication. You're getting them to talk. You're getting them to draw. You're getting them, and that's all it takes. And you have to start with the kids, because, you know, old school like me, we're a very closed culture. We don't talk about things, and so you got to start with the kids. I think that is phenomenal. I mean, it really, really is, that they can express themselves.
Yeah, we're excited about it.
Yes, and once you bridge that gap, I'll tell you this really quick story about me and my oldest son. And it was kind of a test. He was in college. He went to Nichols College in Massachusetts, only a couple hours away. And he had a girlfriend. And of course, you know, without supervision, they were doing what they were doing. You know, he would stay in her room, she would stay in his room. So fast forward, I think he was a junior, and she was from Massachusetts, and he asked if she could stay with us for a week. And being an old school chick from Alabama, Mobile, Alabama, I was mortified. I was like, are you serious? But then somewhere, you know, we talked about it a little bit. I said, these kids have been together, okay, for the past 3 years. She is coming to Connecticut. You know, this is my realization. They will be together. Am I going to let them be together wherever, or am I going to let them be together where I could keep an eye on them? And that was, I knew, I felt dirty. I did. I just felt like, ugh, like I needed a shower every 5 minutes. And we have a raised rent, so they were downstairs, and, you know, we were upstairs and everything. They were very respectful, and I told my son, I said, listen, this is against everything I believe in, but here's what I know. It's going to happen anyway, so why not let it happen in a safe environment? And so I did that against, I mean, I don't even know if I slept that week. And it happened. She was very respectful. She came up, she talked to me. We cooked, and, like, you know, I would make announcements before I go downstairs. I'm like, I'm going to be doing laundry or whatever, because the laundry room's down there. Everything was nice and cleaned up and everything. And because I made that sacrifice, it brought me and my son so close together, because I'm 32 years older than him. And so, you know, old school people like, oh, no, that's not going to happen. No girls are staying here. No, you know, blah, 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 blah. And I thought about this girl. Had it not been for her, he probably would have never graduated college. Because when he went, his first semester, he had a 1.9. He went on a football scholarship or partial football scholarship. Then he met her, and she was an RA. She got him into the IT department. She's Catholic. She was teaching Sunday school and this, that, and the other. And, just because of that one situation, I think it brought me and my son closer together. So I think when you're older, you have to make sacrifices. And I know that he appreciated it.
Yeah, but you call it sacrifice, but I also think about it as calculating. You want to keep the connection going.
Yeah.
And that's the important thing. And so you make some compromises to make sure that the connection stays.
That's a pretty way of saying it. I felt dirty. So I had to call it a sacrifice. But sometimes in life, you have to compromise.
Yeah.
That's what you have to do with your children. And, from my experience in raising my kids, they just want to be heard.
Yeah.
And I try to stay involved in everything. Like I was on the school board, for 5 years when they went to school. I was the PTA. I worked for the school and everything just to stay engaged because I grew up on the east side of Bridgeport. I didn't have any of that. I didn't have two parents. I was from a single family home. And those were the things that I was missing. And so I wanted to make sure that my children had it. And it makes a difference when you talk to your kids.
Absolutely.
I talk to them about anything, and you can do it too. Just whatever you think you want to talk about, or if you see something in their room, a love letter from a girl, because I found one of those. The letter said, "I want to rock your world," and I got real nervous. I'll never forget that. So whatever you want to talk to them about, this is what I did. Okay. I would, whenever I took them to anywhere, drop them off for basketball, I would put the radio on and talk the length of one record and make sure I don't repeat myself. And then, we blast the music, whatever. And I think, at some point he came back to that. But it's just so important. Communication is the key.
Yeah. Both talking to them, but also listening.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
But not only listening, but ensuring that you understand what it is they mean when they say something. And that's been an important part. You mentioned earlier choices, and I have to talk about one thing that we did. The governor of Maryland, Wes Moore, wrote a book that talks about just divergent paths, the way he grew up and a person with the same name grew up, both from neighborhoods in Maryland. The other person ended up in prison, serving a life term for murder. And there's Wes Moore, both grew up with a single mother, who is now the third black governor in the United States. Of all our history, he's the third. And so he wrote a book called The Other Wes Moore. And then there was another book from that called Discovering Wes Moore, suitable for middle schoolers, so early high school. So we had the kids read that. Actually, we read it together with them. And they then used different creative ways to express what they learned. So we saw poetry, we heard music, dolls being made. And the understanding, the group that actually won, and we actually had a little bit of a bribery with gift cards.
Yeah,
we
money.
had a contest.
That's the best incentive.
The 2 kids who got the first prize really did doll explain the good Wes Moore and what they call the bad Wes Moore, with a little review of the book. It was like this wonderful thing. And we had the principal of the high school, as well as Deborah Cavaniss, who's one of the members, president of OIC. She's one of our board members. And another teacher be the judges. It was such a wonderful thing to see, not only what they did, but to hear the way they answered questions when the judges ask us. Because sometimes you're doing the work and you think, oh, they're not getting it. They're getting it. And so, hopefully from that will come the idea that we can be anything we want to be. We need support, we need patience with each other, we need to listen to each other.
And we need to start with our children because our children are our future. It's too late for us. We're already set in our ways. I know I am. So we have about 2 minutes left, Dr. Morgan. I just want to, first of all, say please do not forget to follow us on YouTube. share this information. And I want to thank you so much for coming on the show. And what would you like to leave our audience with? You have the last 2 minutes.
So a couple of things.
Okay.
One is Sawbona is really a community organization. We're always looking for volunteers who are creatives. And if you're interested, the information, sawbonacares.org, you can go to our website. There's a place that you can sign on for that.
Okay.
We're always looking for ways to raise funds. If you are someone who has skills in that area, we welcome you. In addition, we have volunteers who come in just to help us support the kids. Be there to be a listening ear, watch them when they leave to go in the hallway, whatever. We're just looking for ways in which we can make more of an impact. Right now we're at Great Oaks. My vision is that we would be in all the schools in our area. So help us keep that dream alive.
Absolutely, especially in the inner city, because sometimes the inner city kids are left in the shadows.
Yes.
I mean, so we definitely want to sign on to sarbonacares.org and find out, how you can give back to this community.
Yeah.
And once again, Dr. Morgan, thank you so much for being on the show. We really do appreciate this information, and I enjoyed it more than you would know.
Thank you, Ms. Lambert. It's been a pleasure being here.
No, come back.
We'll definitely do that.
Okay, and we appreciate you taking a long ride down here. So this is the
worth
David
it.
Goodman Reality and Truth Show, and we're on your side.